plans. I said, it's a bad time to sell a house, but I got to sell a house, and we got to get ready to hit the road. And we were still in our process of restoration, and that's what it's been, a restoration process. Sin was acknowledged and forsaken before I ever spoke with my wife, but it's one thing to be forgiven, it's another thing to be restored. And very often Christians are so glib and easy about forgiveness that we don't understand that if we don't let God do a deep enough work, it's only a matter of time before the same issues arise again. And so we knew that forgiveness had taken place last summer, but restoration was a process that we surrendered to. And I thought, well, Lord, I know we're still in that process, but let us finish the process in some other part of the country. In different cities where Enduring Truth was very, very popular, when we began to get invitations, y'all can finish whatever you're doing here and then start your next work here. And cities started bidding and all that stuff. So, I was very interested in leaving. And in early January, God began to send one person after another to speak very, very definitely to us about our future. The first was T.D. Jakes. I'll never forget. I was across the country to hear him preach for a friend of mine who said, come and just sit for a few days. I'm in revival with Bishop, and I've always enjoyed his preaching, and so I said, I'll go. And one night at dinner, a bunch of preachers at dinner with Bishop, he got up from the table in the middle of the meal and called me into another room. We had met just very casually before, but I knew he didn't really know me. But when he heard about this, God began to talk to him about it. And he sat down and talked with me. And he had some very definite words. And then I began to hear from pastors, some here in the Bay Area. Bishop Bob Jackson called, and he spoke into my life and prophesied and prayed and all of that. And we on the phone, speaking in tongues and carrying on. It was just something else. See what was happening as the Lord was speaking to him, encouraging me and speaking to our lives. A bishop from Bermuda called, and some of these individuals wrote and what have you, and just one right after the other, after the other, after the other. And finally I said, okay, Lord, I think it's obvious you're not going to let me leave the Bay Area. We will be continuing that. I want to give no details tonight because tonight's about celebrating and thanking God for you. On our website in the next day or two, you'll find all the information you want for those of you who are interested in that. But tonight I really didn't want it to be about that. I wanted it to be about what God has done to this point, because that's what's been most precious to us. So if you just go to pastorpaul.net in a day or two, you get all your information. We also brought a couple of resources that I just wanted to mention. My first message after being recommissioned, I'm part of the Church of God, Anderson, Indiana, the group that the Gaithers are part of, and Sandy Patty and all that. I've been lifelong Church of God. My daddy was Church of God pastor. And so I've maintained that affiliation across the decades. And I had the privilege of having a restoration team made up of 3 godly men, Pastor John Jenkins, Pastor Bishop Timothy Clark, and the Reverend Dr. Richard Allen Farmer. And they have been the point persons in our restoration process. We've had a local marriage and family therapist, and the Church of God just looked over what they did and saw it was a thorough and real process, and said that he may be recommissioned at one of our national meetings. We want to make a statement to the church at large that we are confident in what God has done. And so I was recommissioned in early August at a Church of God meeting, and my brother, who pastors in Philadelphia, in fact, the church my dad pastored in Philadelphia, my brother succeeded him And when my brother heard we were going to be recommissioned on August 5th, which was a Thursday, he called me and said, "Now, what are you doing Sunday the 8th?" I hadn't preached, of course, since December anywhere, and I'd gotten lots of invitations, pastors who said, "Look, I know God's hand is still on you while you're going through your restoration. Come and preach." I said, "No, I can't do that. We must honor the process and do it right." And I said, "These folks haven't told me I'm released to preach, and I will not do it until they have said such." And so, but they knew I would be released on August 5th, and my brother said, "Why don't you come home and preach your first restoration message in the pulpit where you first started preaching?" And so on August 8th, I went back home to Philly, and what a time we had, as Meredith and I were embraced by the saints who came from far and near. And that day, my inaugural post-restoration message, I entitled "Failing Forward." And I preached from the story of the night that Jesus was betrayed, when he said to his disciples, "All of you are about to fall away on account of me." And when Peter protested, he said, "All right, let me tell you specifically how bad your fall's going to be." And he told him that he was about to deny that he ever knew the Lord 3 times. And Peter didn't believe it, but it was so. But Jesus didn't just tell him how badly he was going to fail. He said, "But I've prayed for you." And I didn't pray that you wouldn't fail, because to tell you the truth, there are some things you need to learn that you can't learn until you come to the end of yourself. And so the Lord told him, "I prayed for you that your faith does not fail." Amen. He said, "And when you have turned again," we think conversion is just the first time you get saved. But there are lots of turnings on the Christian journey. Okay, I'm the only one, but if you don't ever hear about any other Christian who has some turnings, you will know that it was true. And Jesus said, "When you've turned again, strengthen your brothers." Jesus told him he was going to fail, and told him he was going to not utterly lose his faith, and told him he was going to be used again. And so I preached from that passage, and that message from August 8th is available. And then there are fewer copies of another message I preached about closing in on 2 years ago, entitled "When God Confuses You." I preached it in the pulpit of John Hagee in San Antonio. We had a wonderful time that night. And the message "When God Confuses You" is here too. So those are available to you.